New arc, old problems. I had some hope that leaving Mega Voltage behind also meant leaving behind the quality of its battles, which was all over the place, mainly due to inconsistent animation that ranged from terrible to great. Well, unfortunately, episode 115, which kickstarts a new arc, makes it clear that lackluster and disappointing battles are here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. Roy vs. Nemona Double Battle Edition Part 2 features all the usual issues, an abundance of still frames that suggest or hint at motion without actually having any. Whenever there is movement, it's simple and repetitive or just painfully slow. Weight and impact are almost completely absent, and they clearly zoom in or out or use certain angles to obscure how bad the animation really is. Crocalor uses Stomping Tantrum and only his lower body is shown, and from a weird angle. It looks awkward, yes, but it's less to draw and animate. Palmet taking the hit is essentially just a static shot that zooms away from the screen to simulate the impact and knockback. Decidueye and Lucario fighting up close and personal is so pitifully slow, you can practically count the frames, and they end up clashing head-on in, you guessed it, a still frame with very little motion that lacks the intensity such a moment should have. Not to mention that you can easily loop their short exchange because of how simple, slow, and repetitive the motions are. Lucario, with its guard up, is pushed back when Decidueye smacks it with its wing, but only slightly and with no weight, like physics don't exist. Lucario feels like a cardboard cutout that is blown away by a gust of wind. Conversely, when Lucario, also in a defensive stance, takes a punch from Palmet, it gets launched back way too much. Inertia is taken into account inconsistently. Decidueye avoids Flamethrower and Flash Cannon by sliding across the screen in a simple and repetitive fashion that makes it feel robotic, and its subsequent clash with Lucario is essentially two still shots with very little motion. Crocalor using Flame Charge post-Terrasto looks simply awful, like his legs look tiny and they are flailing forward and back in cartoonish fashion, looking like something out of Looney Tunes. Moreover, this sequence just feels completely lifeless, since nothing other than his legs, fire, and the background move. I'm sure you get the point by now. This is not just a disappointing battle, it's also a depressing and frustrating reminder that while Mega Voltage ended, one of its worst aspects is still very much alive, which is very unfortunate. Now, the last time Roy and Nemona battled each other, I complained heavily about the outcome because Roy won, something I found and still find unrealistic since Nemona is a champion. While Roy is strong and he clearly improved during the time skip, he was still not at the level where he should have realistically defeated someone on her level. So you would think that this time, since Nemona wins, I wouldn't have any complaints, right? Well, for the most part, this is true. Nemona absolutely had every reason and right to win. First, she's again a champion, which means she should be stronger than Roy. Second, while Roy uses the exact same two Pokémon he used last time, Nemona actually changes things up. She still uses Palmet, But this time she also uses a Decidui, who is honestly a really nice addition since one of the big selling points of the Indigo Disc expansion is letting you catch starters in the wild. So Nemona showing up with one she caught and raised in the terrarium fits perfectly. Changing one of her Pokemon for this battle gives her a massive strategic advantage. She already battled Crocalor and Lucario. She knows how they fight. She knows their strengths, their weaknesses, and how Roy uses them together. Roy, on the other hand, has never battled Nemona's Decidui, so he has no idea what it can do, what kind of strategies it and Pamut can use, how they can coordinate, or what kind of pressure they can apply together. And sure enough, Decidui ends up being the Pokemon that gives Roy the most trouble, and it ultimately plays a key role in his defeat. Third, Nemona has been at Blueberry Academy for a while now. We don't know exactly how long, but we do know what kind of place Blueberry Academy is. It puts a huge emphasis on battling, especially double battles. This means Nemona hasn't just gotten stronger in general, she's also been specifically training in the exact format they are battling in. Roy hasn't been sitting around doing nothing, of course, but he also hasn't been actively training. Certainly not in an environment like this. So not only is Nemona stronger than she was before, and she potentially improved more than he did in that time they were apart, but she's also now more experienced in and adept at double battles than him, giving her yet another advantage. And then there's the fact that Roy doesn't Mega Evolve Lucario. Last time he won using Mega Evolution. This time Lucario gets knocked out before he can even use it, forcing Roy to Terrastalize Crocalor instead. Terrastal is strong, but Mega Evolution is stronger. Roy doesn't have a choice, yes, but the fact remains. He battles Nemona without his best trump card, putting him at an even bigger disadvantage. Finally, Roy losing makes complete sense narratively. It's necessary since this episode signals the start of a training arc. He has to lose, because defeating a champion who has been training at a place that specifically focuses on double battles and battling in general would mean he doesn't need to train because he's already strong enough. It's like winning a marathon on day one of training for it. At that point, why even train? So yes, Roy losing makes perfect sense, and I'm completely fine with it. What I'm not fine with is how he loses. In the games, Spirit Shackle prevents the opponent from switching out or fleeing. That's it. It does not paralyze them, it does not freeze them, it does not stop them from attacking. But in the anime, they take this move and make it overpowered by allowing it to almost fully immobilize the target, which is just cheap. There's basically no counterplay at all. It feels like an easy, guaranteed way to win. Lucario and Crocalor both lose because of Spirit Shackle. Lucario can't move, escape, or fight back, and it gets one-shotted. With a still frame, of course. We get mostly static shots of Pamut approaching, Lucario bracing with Metal Claw, and Pamut darting across the screen. And with that, boom, Lucario is gone. No real impact or intensity. It feels anticlimactic and weightless. Yet another example of the poor quality of this battle. Crocalor's defeat is at least more cinematic. There's more motion, spectacle, energy, and weight. But even then, it still hinges on the same problem. He only loses because he is restrained. What makes this even more frustrating is that unlike Lucario, Crocalor does break free. Roy cheers him on, Roy pushes him forward, and we get this big, dramatic moment where Crocalor's willpower, determination, and bond with Roy allows him to overcome Spirit Shackle. The way this is framed, it genuinely feels like it's building towards something huge. I really thought he was about to either evolve or learn a new move. But instead, he breaks free and immediately gets taken out anyways. So all this build-up, drama, emotional momentum, and the suspense ultimately lead to him still losing regardless and right away, making the entire sequence feel hollow. Like, what was even the point of this struggle if it doesn't actually change the outcome in any meaningful way? And yes, I know that the move is called Spirit Shackle. They are just taking it literally, and its Japanese name, Kagenui, means shadow stitching, which is a fabled ninja technique that immobilizes the opponent by pinning their shadow with a shuriken or kunai. So its effect in the anime is, I guess, lore accurate, but this doesn't mean that it cannot still feel like cheating. Now, on a more positive note, I love how this episode brings Blueberry Academy and the Terrarium to life. The Indigo Disc is my favorite expansion from Scarlet and Violet, and this episode immediately took me back to how much fun I had playing it. Honestly, it feels really nostalgic. It's truly wonderful to finally see such a fantastic location in the anime in all its glory. And the same goes for the characters. It's great to see Lacey, Cyrano, and Drayton, who are all adapted well. Lacey is just as cute and endearing as ever. She still crosses her arms whenever something is not right and feels like the model student, kind, responsible, and always trying to help everyone improve. Something that inevitably leads to her clashing with her less serious peers, which is hilarious. Cyrano is exactly what he should be: funny, forgetful, and a walking piece of comic relief. And Drayton is as laid back and relaxed as always. He immediately comes across as chill and observant, and you can already see him taking an interest in Roy during the battle. It really feels like he's set up to specifically train Roy, while Lacey will train the group as a whole. These characters make a really strong impression, and they instantly remind you why they were so likable in the games. I also love that Anne is here, since the last time we saw her, it was revealed that she was invited to Blueberry Academy because of how good she is at battling. So it's really satisfying to see that this was followed up on, especially because I said back then that this meant Liko and friends would likely go to Blueberry Academy as well, and here we are. It's cool that we even get to see Anne battling Lacey. Clearly, she's been working hard to get stronger. This episode makes her story feel consistent and rewarding, which is awesome. Also, I love that both of her Pokemon use Drill Run against Lacey. It's a move that instantly makes me think of Excadrill, the main Pokemon of both Lacey and her father. If this was intentional, it's a nice detail. Also, speaking of characters and praising their appearance in this episode, Nemona deserves a mention too, since I'm glad we get to see her again, even if, just like last time, she leads to a disappointing battle with a questionable outcome. This is not her fault, of course. She's an awesome character that is just doing her thing. The problem is the execution. I can only hope that things will improve. So yeah, overall, this episode is very much a mixed bag. The battle is terrible due to horrible pacing, lackluster animation, boring choreography, and the painful lack of any memorable or spectacular moments. The outcome doesn't help its case. While Roy losing is perfectly fine, necessary even, the way he does feels contrived. Instead of finding a clever or strategic way for Nemona to win, they instead used an overpowered and cheap move to lock Roy down and end the battle in the most convenient way possible, which is something I very much take issue with. The only thing I can praise about the battle is that it's hilarious how Lucario forces Pommet into committing friendly fire. What keeps this episode from being an absolute disaster is the setting and characters it introduces, each wonderfully and faithfully brought to life from a fantastic and memorable expansion, and the promise that the next few episodes will showcase them further and allow Liko and friends to take some meaningful steps forward. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click the links on screen. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep making content like this, you can find all the ways to do so in the description and in the pinned comment. Whether it's through a small donation or just watching and sharing, every bit of support means the world to me. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.